Welcome to Reiki Banashi, a podcast where we talk about Reiki in a simple and approachable way. My name is Inina, and I am a practitioner and teacher of traditional Japanese Reiki. And through this space, I share thoughts and reflections with you. And together, we'll explore this fascinating topic that is so close to my heart. So make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Konnichiwa, hi everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Reiki Banashi. Today we will explore the different styles of Reiki and their lineage. I remember that when I wanted to start learning Reiki, I felt a bit lost because there were so many different styles, approaches, trends, and teachers. And I would have loved to have a bit more clarity before signing up for a course. So I often say this, but nowadays when we talk about Reiki, it's a bit like talking about all different types of yoga, even though they are completely different practices, just because there are so many and they often differ significantly in approach and form. So, with Reiki, it's quite similar. I remember thinking, I just want to learn Reiki, but it didn't seem that simple. That's when I realized that when you learn a healing method that has a history and tradition, there is a fundamental element in the choice you make, the lineage. And lineage is linked to the style of Reiki you choose. So what is lineage? In Reiki, lineage refers to the chain of transmission of teachings and energy from teacher to student, tracing all the way back to Mikao Usui Sensei, the founder of Reiki. It's somewhat a bit like a family tree, but on the level of knowledge and practice transmission. We can trace our teacher, their teacher, and their teacher, and so on, all the way back to Mikao Usui Sensei. So what's the difference between a Reiki style and a Reiki lineage? So to simplify, lineage is the transmission of a teaching through an uninterrupted chain of masters and students, or teachers and students, and the style is a specific approach to the practice of Reiki. So why is lineage important? So lineage ensures that the teaching received comes from a direct and authentic transmission. So it allows also the practitioner or the teacher to be situated within a specific tradition or style, such as Western Usui Reiki, Jikiden Reiki, Gendai Reiki Ho, and so on and so on. It provides insights into the influences that have shaped a teacher's practice. So how does transmission work within a lineage? So when a Reiki teacher trains a student and transmits the teachings and Reiki energy through what we call a reiju, the student becomes a link in the lineage. So every practitioner or teacher can then trace their learning path back to Mikao Usui Sensei by looking at the teachers who preceded them. So it's not a perfect comparison, but to help you visualize the concept, if we take back the image of a family tree, there would be the father, the grandfather, the great-grandfather, and so on and so on. So to help you better visualize what I'm explaining, I have included a link in the episode notes with a table of lineages. So if you like, you can take a look at it at the end of the episode, but if you want to check it now, you can also pause the episode and come back to it later. So let's start talking about the different styles of Reiki and their origins. You often hear about Usui Reiki, Jikiden Reiki, Gendai Reiki Ho, Karuna Reiki, and many others. But where do these different styles come from and how did they develop? And most importantly, what connects them and what makes them different? So it's important to understand that all these styles originate from Mikao Usui Sensei's teachings, but their evolution has been influenced by the people who have transmitted these teachings over time. So it's not about determining which style is better, but simply about explaining how they have diverged. So we have two main branches. We have traditional Japanese Reiki and Western style of Reiki. Before diving into the details of the lineages, let's make an essential distinction. Today we can group Reiki styles into two main categories. The first one is traditional Japanese Reiki, which remained in Japan and developed through the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai for the Gendai Reiki Ho, or through Chujiro Hayashi Sensei for Jikiden Reiki. And these lineages come directly from Mikao Usui Sensei students. And then we have Western style of Reiki, which was transmitted outside of Japan by Hawayo Takata and then evolved into various modern styles. These two branches share the same origin but have evolved differently due to transmission and cultural influences. So for traditional Japanese Reiki, that's a continuation of the teachings in Japan. After Mikao Usui's death in 1926, Reiki continued to be practiced in Japan through different lineages. There's the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai and the Gendai Reiki Ho. After Mikao Usui Sensei's passing, his students took over the leadership of the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai, an organization or association that continues to transmit Reiki in a more discreet way in Japan. It became so after the Second World War to protect its members. So it was closed to public and reserved exclusively for the members, and it still remains like that today. And a Japanese Reiki master, Hiroshi Doi, who had studied with the Gakkai, later founded Gendai Reiki Ho, and it's an attempt to make traditional teachings more accessible while integrating some Western Reiki influences. And then we have the Jikiden Reiki, that is a family transmission from Chujiro Hayashi Sensei. Chujiro Hayashi is one of Mikao Usui Sensei's direct student, and he developed his own approach to Reiki, emphasizing clinical aspects and the treatment of illnesses, as he was a doctor himself. And actually, Mikao Usui himself asked Chujiro Hayashi to continue to study Reiki on a medical perspective. An interesting point about this lineage is that there are no external spiritual additions, no chakras or no concepts from other traditions. Chiyoko Yamaguchi, who learned directly from Hayashi Sensei, continued practicing and teaching Reiki within her family. And along with her son, Tadao Yamaguchi, they later created Jikiden Reiki, which means direct transmission or direct teachings to preserve and transmit this approach as faithfully as possible. So these Japanese lineages emphasize traditional practice such as byosen, the perception of energetic blockages, toxins in the body, and the importance of direct hands-on treatments. Then we have the Western Reiki style from Hawayotta Kata to the modern styles. So when Hawayotta Kata learned Reiki from Chujiro Hayashi in the late 30s, she then introduced the practice to the West, which underwent a different kind of evolution. And from there, we have the Usui Shiki Ryoho and the Reiki Alliance. So Hawayotta Kata, she structured the teaching into several levels and introduced a more formal aspect in the training. And after her death in 1980, some of her students founded the Reiki Alliance, which continued to transmit her approach, called Usui Shiki Ryoho. So it's unclear whether it was Takata herself or her teachers who began to modify the original teachings. But since then, we've come to know another form of Reiki which has new elements, new symbols or mantras, and some elements have been removed to better suit Westerners. And so many styles have emerged from Usui Shiki Ryoho Reiki. Teachers from this lineage have created more modern styles that incorporate more New Age elements. And among them, we can find Karuna Reiki with new symbols and more sound and mantra-based kind of work. There is also Kundalini Reiki, which combines Reiki and activation of Kundalini energy. We can find also Shambhala Reiki, which includes elements from other spiritual traditions. So this is just to name a few. And it's not about saying that one style is more authentic than another, but about understanding that each approach reflects a specific transmission and intention. Of course, evolutions are not necessarily bad. They can meet different needs. However, on the other hand, by adding or removing too many elements, we risk profoundly transforming a tradition to the point where we are no longer truly practicing what Mikao Usui Sensei originally transmitted. And right away, what comes to my mind is the difference between Japanese tradition and Western culture. Because from a Japanese cultural perspective, or at least based on what I experienced within my own family, it's true that out of respect for a practice or a teaching, we do not really touch it or change it or modify it. Doing so would be seen a little bit like a form of disrespect toward the teaching, the teacher, or even the founder. And I realized that within the Reiki community, what is often missing is historical knowledge about Reiki. You can find hundreds and hundreds of books on how to practice, focusing on the more spiritual and New Age aspects. But in the end, when it comes to history, there is relatively little information available, at least in Italian or French, but fortunately for English speakers, access to this knowledge is somewhat easier. So, as a conclusion, how to choose your Reiki style or lineage? So rather than searching for the best Reiki style or lineage, it's more useful to ask yourself these questions. Do I want more traditional teaching, or am I open to modern evolutions of Reiki? And most of all, which approach resonates most with my sensitivity and my needs? And then once you found a teacher, what is my teacher's lineage? So if we're looking for a Reiki practice that stays true to the original teachings, then traditional Japanese Reiki like Jikiden Reiki is a really valuable approach. It allows us to reconnect with the Japanese tradition without all the modification that have been made to adapt it to other cultures or modern expectations. But on the other hand, if you feel more comfortable with a version that integrates other influences, then Western Reiki styles can also be a good option. So I'm sharing my personal perspective here. And of course, as I'm half Japanese, this has an influence on my perspective. But it's just that for me, it's a bit of a shame to see how much Reiki has been transformed over time, to the point where sometimes its roots are almost forgotten. When certain aspects are removed or new ones are added, we end up creating something new, which is okay, but somehow it's something that moves away from the Reiki that was originally taught in Japan. In a way, maybe it slightly distorts the practice when elements are introduced that have nothing to do with Japanese culture. So it's neither good nor bad. Huh? It's just a reality, I guess, to be aware of when choosing which kind of Reiki to practice. And I realize now, at least for myself, that I had absolutely no idea about this before. Because there's just so much more information available on Western Reiki styles. So yeah, I think everyone is completely free to choose the kind of Reiki that resonates with their heart, their soul, and then to make that choice consciously. At the end of the day, what matters most is practicing and experiencing Reiki directly. No matter the lineage, what truly counts is what we do with it and how we can integrate it into our daily lives. I hope you enjoyed this journey through Reiki lineages and styles and that it has given you some clarity. I invite you to check the link to the lineage tables in the episode notes. I'm wishing you a gentle day or peaceful evening, and see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. It's such a joy to share these moments with you. If you'd like to keep exploring these topics with me, you can find me on Instagram or on my website. And if you want to dive deeper or learn more, all the links are in the show notes. Your support and your time mean so much to me. I'll see you very soon for another episode, and in the meantime, take care. ありがとうございました。